Hello and welcome. It is the 12th day of November 2019. Like always, all bets, trades of the like within each his own risk and their own reward. For myself, risk reward management is always job number one. Look righty then. Let's take a look at this. So this level of key support is obviously being resistance right now. It hasn't had that breakdown. And even if it does, this key level of support here or would be, well, I'm looking for a support, which was previous resistance in multiple ways because it's the area here, of course. And then a 61.8, 70-ish percent retracement from a key level. That's not like it's an uncommon thing. It's definitely a bullish situation to bounce from there. If it goes up higher, it's not a surprise. Is another way of putting it. But I really want to focus on the failed moves in here because, well, originally you had this layer of support in here that was taken down in October 23rd or 24th, and then had this interesting move. And when you go from like 75 to like 10.2, that's like 25 on 75 to do it. That's better than 1/3 or 33% in a 2-day span. That's like a huge, magnificent move. And when I say that every single time, and I probably even did that, oh, it's going to be important to hold this area. Well, so far it has. Originally it held it up here. Now we can see short term the support is resistance, which we'll take a look at on the hour time frame, which is going to show a lot when we look at failed move analysis. But before we do that, again, we had that move. There's your failed move. It's the holding above situation. This is why I don't like saying oftentimes failed moves can bring a fast move in the opposite direction. Although it kind of already did, because this was a fast move just to this point in here. But as far as the situation of stage one of that, the play, one, you have your failed move, which is this part here. Stage two is it manages to have its next leg higher, however it may form, quick or not so quick. And this was quick. And then stage two, your correctionary move, whether again it be quick or not so quick. And this is a lot of periods. So quick, or not so quick rather. So that's that next stage. And the stage after that is get to reach resistance, previous resistance you originally established, and then sig move later, or significant move, just shortening words, I guess, SIG. Significant move to the next point. Oftentimes fast, concise, and all that type of beautiful stuff. But with that being stated, and like a way of like a game theory, okay, failed move, failed move, failed move, and one failed move can turn into another. And that's something you still got to give the case for, because you got this in here, and then that big move of like almost but greater than 33%. This has the potential to be that of that. If it's not able to do anything more, that's like, at least have a decent like higher, meaning get to like 12, 13,000. So if this would be the failed move, well, back to the congestion area is in here, then the fast concise move would be something significant lower than that. But then that does bring us back to the correctionary move from this key low to this key high, also coming back to this area, something that it hasn't done. So there's so many reasons to state that if it does happen on a bearish level and things do break down, that there's nothing here to state that the bigger rally that has went from the entire point A to point B has yet to fail. Okay, so now let's take a look at the hour time frame, because you can't see the failed move on the daily, because obviously within such, if this level breaks within the 18 in here, yeah, we're looking to at least come down towards in here, and we'll see how that makes out. Well, but on the opposite side, well, the 18 is now declining. We got this big level from where we came from. You kind of need to see at least it hold and stay in this area and start your breakout above this level of resistance. Then we can start to say things are looking magnificent. So that's good to note. So I'm going to put the lines for where I think those key levels are, at least for the resistance point. I'll put that somewhere around 96, because then you'd be clearly getting above this resistance, noticeably above the 18 highs, and even noticeably above where the current lows are. Hourly time frame says a lot. All right, okay. So in here we had this level of resistance, encounter this. and amongst it, not finding support here. And one of the things I'll state is, well, on the 3-hour time frame, like a longer one, maybe you'll find support there because it's such a decent move wherever the 18 happens to lie here, but it didn't. It didn't support where it came from. And then not only did it have very little support here, but it had a decent move. So you could almost say failed move, already had its fast move, plays over. But it's the same polar opposite thing here. If this thing ends up failing and we break down below it, well, the probability now of maybe hitting those 6,000 or so levels can come into play. And now, as far as all the short-term type of stuff, well, since this decline, it has only had one breakdown. It had a failed breakout attempt. Let me just remove even more of these drawings so I can draw some more. It had one failed breakout attempt in here. And you can even state that it had an okay, but not really much of a fast move, but still price-wise, it was 88 going down to 85. That's about a handful of percent, or fingers, like 3% or 4. But from that low, it managed to successfully correct. It could have done this, meaning you resist the highs, support the lows, break the highs. None of that stuff. Rather, it got above it and has been supporting it ever since. So thus supporting where we came from, but nothing has came in any type of nice major forms, because our next short-term level hasn't hit it yet, is this. It attempted it here, and it just even most recently attempted it this period. And then breaking above that, we have all this type of stuff, 9,000. I've removed that line, but it's got a lot of layers on the short term it's going to have to go through before we can give it precedence on any more of the longer term time frames. Because I talk about the big failed moves on the short term and all the mid, even the daily is like whatever, midterm, I guess, whatever you want to name it. I mean, for me, the most productive long-term charts are the weekly, monthly. And on the weekly, correcting within the 18, it's so far held and stayed above this. But when you have such a fantastic move like this, again, filling this empty space, not like it would be the biggest of surprises if you have situations where, okay, you have this, some sort of correction, maybe a little bit of resistance. Then in a spot like this is where I say that that's an interesting thing if something like that is to occur, because you could maybe do a little bit of that, but then any type of breaks of this, that's why seeing like 60, 70, 80, 90,000 happening in fast periods, sort of like it did with 3, 5, 6, 7, all the way up to 20,000 in fast movements, would not be that much of a surprise. Bitcoin dominance is just really hanging in there, doing the same thing as it was. Nothing yet to, obviously, to resume this uptrend. It's got a long ways to go from that. And to attempt to revert this solidly into the downside, well, I mean, it's got the setup for it, but it still hasn't broken down below, well, really this key support here at 68.35, but now upgraded or downgrade, however you want to name it, to 67 point high 8s or mid 8s, 87, 85, because it was supported here, because this was a little bit of a failed breakdown. Now, if it breaks it below and all this stuff, then it really needs to go down to like down in here to say, okay, clear break below this, watch out, maybe the situation could stand for, in whichever form, LITECOIN, Monero, Ethereum, and all of the main Ripple, all of the main, all of the altcoins just having spectacular moves, at least versus Bitcoin. Now let's move on to altcoins. First, Neo. What a day. I talked about this yesterday or the day before recently. I think it was yesterday. I mean, who would have thunk that when looking at this, a good move was going to happen? And I was being sarcastic there, because how does it handle the move? And the move is obvious, because before this, and you can't tell, oh, even the 18 highs, we're going to go up like a good 15, 20% plus. Oh, no, it was higher than that. It was close to 50%. And you can't tell that. But it did. And now, okay, so now that it did that, how is it going to react to that move? Because before, the move was a pretty decent decline from these June highs of 1690 to 833. Then you got these declines from 2683 down to 858. And even before, it's even more nastier after that, but volatility extreme. And that's what cryptos are, of course. You get the higher volatile game. If you like to play bigger numbers, go for, I mean, this is, to me, I like it this way. Anyway, so you have the high, the reaction is all of this. Now excitation of the 18 average occurring has now consolidated, stand within this level. There's so many different productive ways. One, we've established this level of resistance over several days. Doing anything like this is a productive statement. That would meet up with the 18. You'd be correcting successfully within that if such is the case. And this thing could just keep on having spectacular gains. But if it does in this, because you're supposed to have moderate resistance here. And when I say moderate resistance, it means I say that in so many different levels. One, it's not as likely it's more likely to have one of those spectacular moves going forward, although you're supposed to stop going up. That's one way of looking at it. Two, moderate resistance because of what I just drew in. It's not going to correct much. It's just going to maybe come back to where it came from. It's one of those beautiful sights. You have the move to here, the successful correction, the breakout to previous high, and then you have that next stage after that. And if it does manage to look to move, I'll be looking for play like next, like key levels like this where we came from. Then we got this previous high, and I might have done it before. You might have the numbers. I don't have them anymore. I don't really care too much anyway. But Fibonacci retracement can always be used as well for where you're looking to do things. For me, I'm just going to look for the ratios. I've already made a trade earlier, Neo versus Theta, and if it just has a nice move above it, we'll keep doing some more because I can throw in the Neo versus Theta chart. And this is the ratio. I need 135 Thetas to buy one Neo, or in that range. And before it was 70 something. Before here was 156. And you get these moves. And that means before, when this was going on, I was selling primarily Neo to buy Theta. And then all of this, primarily selling Theta to buy Neo. And then moves like this is cool. Because if I'm able to take advantage of this, then I can get a little bit. What I like is if I'm going to make like, say, 7, 8 sales in here, where it's going to be 7 or 8, 9 times, I'm going to sell Theta for Neo. Hopefully 1, 2, 3 times in the middle, I'll be able to do like some buybacks kind of deal. And then you have a bunch of this in here. You just can't trade much in this. And then one little move in here. So a failed move first. Okay, let's get small amount of Neo, one Neo buy before you start. That's all I've been doing now, selling that in Neo for Theta. If this keeps going and we see these high levels, I'll keep doing that. And of course, if it goes down, well, I'll sell the Neo that I'll sell the Theta that I just been buying recently, and I'll have a lot more of it now in this crossing, and get more Neo back than I did before. And as far as portfolio management for me, yesterday I was just looking at H-bar, and I was thinking, well, let's get with the dollar price chart, because I realized if it's not traded against the dollar, or if I could just get calculated by. So I type in HBAR, and then the U for US dollar, and I'm thinking, and I'm looking here, wait a second. Binance has Hedera hash graph? Okay. This is the price against the dollar, 3.5 cents. And well, let's see hourly chart. This is what it is, but that really wasn't what I was thinking, because I was just wanting to calculate how much of I was just going to think I'm trading this against Raven Coin. How much am I up since I've done trading, and how much is the market since I started? And well, I really didn't do too much in it. Really, what I was thinking is, well, now that this is on Binance, and it has been for a while apparently, when I got this much data going back to like, well, September 29th, it was maybe several days before then I got into HBAR. And it was just several days before then Binance, or Bittrex rather, had it on. So then, I thought, well, why did I immediately thought about the Go chain, which is the one I cross-trade against a few other coins. and thought, well, I got that coin in because I thought, and it was, and it is, a very highly volatile coin. And there's many other reasons why I wanted to play, but all of them were in speculative reasons. When I watched Mike Maloney, Hidden Secrets of Money, when he talked about cryptocurrencies, and in the second half of the video I'm talking about, I don't know what number it was, maybe 7, but the one regarding cryptocurrencies anyway, that came out maybe late 2017, early 2018, somewhere in that time frame. Maybe early 2018. Anyway, they talked about Hedera, or not Hedera, they talked about hash graph technology. Now, I'm not going to say just because it was written on that video, it's on the video, it's going to be good, or I'm definitely not going to say because I'm a big Mike Maloney fan, I got to get into it. But even then, it's all about how confident am I with GoChain? No, not really much. So what makes the difference of the two? I'm hoping that will HBAR be a very volatile coin, especially in situations. And I think most certainly it will. When I say volatile, I mean having like 80% moves and then pulling back 30, 40% when the rest of the market's doing nothing like that. Or when the rest of the market is doing that, it's having 400 and 600% moves. And then after that, it's having like 60% declines. And that's just so profitable if it's able to do that. And then long term, it's all about the destination. And the journey is whatever. I mean, I'm not going to try to predict these up and down movements and then bet serious stakes to see if I'm right or wrong against it. But I am betting serious stakes on the destination. And I've made the serious stakes within it to be able to bet it is another way of putting it as well. But I thought for a second, you know what? Let's just move my GoCoin transfers into that of HBAR. So we look at this now. I've got Bitcoin Cash against Hedera hash graph, and then Litecoin against it. And we're going to be showing Bitcoin Cash soon because that's fun. I'm really interested to see what it says against this. But Bitcoin Cash has got a very interesting chart against Bitcoin. It's coming next after all of this stuff. But yeah, I got out of it for it. I just got rid of the Sky completely. We got Tezos against HBAR, Ripple against HBAR, and Theta against it. So a lot of my favorites. And so here we have Bitcoin Cash against Hedera. And I got some decent moves in here. This nice little 71.95 up to 92. We'll see how it goes. This is just early in its movement. This is that sideways consolidation. It's going to, in here, this low here is 53 up to like 9,000. That's almost double. And that's, to me, I don't think is much at all. I mean, it's just, this thing hasn't even really got started yet. Of course, this is Bitcoin Cash overperforming HBAR in this case. And at low volatility, I'm not taking advantage of this low volatility, but you got moves going from like consistent moves back and forth, like 87 down to like 81. So it's like 4, 5, 6% moves that you could take multiple amounts upon it with, if of course that's what you're looking for. All right, so we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't care if GoChain goes up to like 4, 5, 600 and I miss out. I've had both situations occur where I got out of coins and oh my goodness, it did well. And then I thought the no limit coin, I got out of that just before it really started crashing. So, I mean, things can work out good and bad for me. But the way I look at it is I'm just moving one asset class to another, doing the exact same game. But really not much is changing when a lot is at the same, because as far as my bankroll, it doesn't really change much at all. Anyway, let's go into Bitcoin Cash because it's got a pretty interesting setup. And I'm going to first show it against the dollar, and then I'm going to show it against the BTC. Well, I don't need this line here at 213. I don't know how important it was. I don't get any other lines in here, but from this move in here, the October 26th rally, it is holding and staying above the 18, at least a lot more productively than Bitcoin is doing. And then its comeback spot, if it has to, is around 230. But getting out above 318, 320. And a lot of people look at these more against the dollar than they do against Bitcoin. And I know a lot might be, it just might be because when I first looked at it, I'm like, you know, with a day trading ideology or thinking from day one, I look at the crosses, everything's crossed against Bitcoin. Bitcoin's your base currency. That's basically why I show a lot of these against Bitcoin. So without further ado, here's Bitcoin Cash against, well, Bitcoin. And it's at 0.032631 or 3.2%, 3.3% of the price of Bitcoin. Okay, this pattern setup to me is just so wow. I mean, I'm expecting this thing to go. I mean, whether it does or not, when I did the whole thing with the transfer, I sold all my Go. I even sold Sky, so I'll be doing that. Sold the Raven coin. I'm actually not a fan of how long it takes Raven coin to enter into the wallet as it was anyway. It's a slow transfer onto Binance. Anyway, not too slow, but definitely not fast. With that being said, I ended up just putting some of it extra into BCH because I do think it's going to go off. Not much, just an extra. I increased my portfolio 7% more on the actual Bitcoin Cash. But it comes up to this high, and this correction within the 18 hits this high, hitting this high, doing all this stuff now at that high. And that high is this high. It's this high. It's this high. It's been a long sideways correctionary move. I mean, it was entering into this range in July 13th, 4 months ago. Next key level of resistance. I mean, when Bitcoin Cash goes, I've seen this happen so many times before. I wouldn't be surprised. That's all I'm saying. If it and I hope it does. But it has a decent sized move. Now let's quickly talk about Komodo, which is an interesting one. And it's been going up nice. Now, a lot of times, and this happens several times a year, it seems, where it'll be on Binance, the wallets are offline for days and days and days, and well, maybe not that much, but I've seen it multiple times. If I were to do on here, go Binance KMD BTC divided by Bittrex KMD BTC, and wait for it to load. This is what the single hour term time frame looks like. Before, it was looking like this. I mean, this is an amazing chart. We can see as it was, it's like, it looks like one of those beep beep type of stuff you get, like other than the colors, but the movement of it, of course. But that's because it's supposed to stay at the one area. And when wallets are on both sides, then, I mean, you can transfer back and forth, but now all of this is happening. And then this just meant, like, at one point it was 22% more. Now it's 5%, and it's been staying above that for quite some time. Now, is there any, if I just try to scroll back, it's gonna, I mean, you get a few trades, individual trades. Now here's a spot in here. This probably meant the wallets were doing that same thing again. Then the wallets go back online, and this happens. That's going to happen again. I don't know how much data I get. Here would have been another spot. May 8th to like May 15th, where the wallets would have been disabled. And that meant on Binance, if you wanted to bring coins in to sell or whatever, just to have on your site, you're not going to do it. I want to sell this to buy Litecoin right now, and I can't. And a lot of these are just maybe individual orders that come into play. But this has happened a few times. Here's another one right here up in, right in here there was situations. And this is a spot where it was on the other side in here. And I remember, I can't say I remember, and I've forgotten, and I vaguely remember now. But I do remember, I remember that situation. I just vaguely remember it. But it's just, there were so many situations. That's exactly why I did what I did, because I've remembered so many times on Binance and Bittrex, even on Bittrex, where wallets are down, and they're down for a while. So hopefully soon they'll be back up. Okay, now let's move on to a chart not looking so good, but I think it's got potential. I don't know. I mean, the shorter term is where it's going to come down to. This is really tight in that a low number. 18 high divided by 18 low. Can I show the numbers on here? Okay, well, yesterday's a completed day. 1030 divided by 992. Okay, that's about under 104. And that's one way of looking at the volatility, but a lot of times, like 1069 to 1002, that's like 6%. We are at really interesting low volatility at this point. But when I shorten this out, I mean, it's nothing too fantastic. However, this is where I look at spots. You have a move from this low to this high. You hold and stay above the 18 even though this happened. But when that happened, I mean, you make your higher low to this. Okay, now that's in play. So the next stage is to test this level of resistance. Well, obviously, and successful. I mean, first you have to get by all this, but you resist this. You support this. Very nice. Now things have changed over the last 4 or so periods. It's supporting the 18 average of lows. It's resisting partially the way there. Still has a bit to go. And even breaking it above this, well, this is a very long sideways consolidation, at least within its time frame of the triple hour. And you never know, you can have some decent sized moves. For me, failed move, fast moves. It's like, okay, this is like, man, whatever. You had a little bit of time to be able to sell into here. But for me, it meant selling up here and buying back. I got more theta now than I've ever had in my life for multiple reasons. And that's because when I had a lot less here because I sold to this point, and then everything I sold against was buybacks in here. So when all this was going on, when another market I was selling about have its move up, sort of like today, I was buying theta because Neocoin went up. I haven't sold theta in a long time. I've been buying a lot of it lately though. And I sold a lot of it, of course, between the 21st and the 26th. But as it goes, this has a potential to have a nice little move. Now, on the single hour term time frame, we can see in here the same sort of thing. It's been this level of resistance here at 10:15, supporting it at 1600 hours. Now it's having another support test net area as well. 18 average of lows rising. So maybe it's got the potential. I'm not too excited about its short-term move that it will, but just something I thought I'd point out. Yeah. Moving on to Tezos. I don't know if this will be a failed move or real move yet. If not, well, I sold up there. I'll buy back. All that type of stuff will come into play. Volatility most certainly isn't too big, but that's all fine and dandy. And that just let it do what it does. Just a waiting game to even get trades in. And for me, I haven't made too many trades over the weekend and start of this week. It's been, I think, relatively unvolatile, at least for the coins I'm involved in. Whatever happens here happens. Obviously, coming back down to where we came from. Well, to me, that looks like the upper end of it's 1178. Nicely into it's about 1100. Next coin. That is Stellar Lumen. Still in that in a productive stage. Hasn't broken out. Did pierce below it with this line in here to this high. Okay, so now it's all about where do we had this low come in at like 787. Definitely want to have a nice higher low. Nice to have it within the 18 highs, 18 lows if it takes some time to get up there. It's already had a little bit of a correction with that decent sized red candle down day. On the 3-hour chart, we can see how this price action came down to the 18 lows, and you can say it supported it in that it stopped going down, but technically resisting it, establishing some support in this little area in here. And on the single hour term, we can see that the momentum has totally stopped, and we got key low, key high, key low, key high, and who knows where key low is going to be. But I think the must hold area here for this move is about 8.25. And still, if it's able to get above these levels of resistance that I talked about, it'd be a fantastic move. But obviously it hasn't done that yet. That's why I like to say sometimes, if it does that, if it does that, because if you're looking to get into a long situation, I might not want to wait to get in till it's like noticeably above 1,000, like maybe 1,017, 1,030. And then look for the big plays. But if this thing breaks down now, it would never get in there. You would never go long on it, and you would never be in any part of the losses that would come thereafter. In turn, if you buy at that point and you're right and it goes big, you get your gains. But those who buy at 875 or those who are buying at 840 at all those levels, they get a better price, but they could also take part of a fall lower if that happens. But the setup still remains very nice, and I need to see this thing failing within the 18 lows for me to say otherwise right now. Let's switch over to Tron, which, well, have this move in here, correcting within the 18, exitation, but only barely. In yesterday's session, we take a look at this, say, on like a 3-hour term time frame. I like how for a decent amount of time it's been holding and staying above this little area in here. So I wouldn't be surprised if this thing maybe has a nice move coming soon. We'll see. Again, any bets you make, your own risk, your own reward in 30 minutes. Wow, did I spend longer than I planned? I was going like, okay, let's do this all in 20, 22, 23 minutes. Not so much. Thank you for tuning in. Have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.